Homish and Rashi, Torah portion, Chukas, the fourth reading. It's short today. All right. Here we are. We are in chapter 20, verse 14. Yesterday, we had the story of the rock. Is that the idea of being between a rock and a hard place?
Absolutely.
Where they,
On a meatball.
so that's what happened there? All right. So verse 14, V'yishlach Moshe, and Moshe sent malachim, messengers, Mikadesh, from Kadesh, the place, El Melech Edom, to the king of Edom, the Edomite king. Edom is from Esav, right? The brother of Yaakov.
Israel?
No, the brother of Yaakov,
Okay.
right? Ishmael is a separate brother of, that's a son of Avraham, right? And the father of Rome and Western civilization. Kei amar achicha Israel. So says your brother, Israel. Ata. Do you know? It's called a talah asher matasanu, all of the hardships that have befallen us. Rashi in 14. Okay, what's going on here?
It's a great one.
Achicha Israel, your brother Israel. Mara lahaskir kan achva. Why would we mention brotherhood over here?
Big brand.
Let's learn Rashi, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why would he mention brotherhood here? Allah Amar Loi, Moshe said to Edom, Achinu anachnu, we are brothers, Bnei Avraham, the children of Avraham. Shenemar, as it says, Ki ger yeh zarecha, for your offspring shall be strangers. Bal shenenu haya oisa achayiv lafareg, and it was incumbent upon both of us to pay the debt. In other words, who did God say that to? That we're going to be strangers in a land. That was by the bris, between the covenant between the parts that God made with Abraham, right? That his descendants will have to be in exile, right? Which means who's got a part of that? Esav. Edom is again, remember Edom is from Esav, so that means it's upon Esav too, this decree of exile, right? But in the end, who took it upon? And others is a debt, both of us, but only Israel did, not Esav. So in other words, kind of softening them up that, you owe something to this process over here. I did go to law, and now, and you also know the hardship. This is why your father parted from our father. That he went to the land because of his brother Yaakov. Meaning because of the promissory note, Hamutal Alehem, that was put upon them. On both of them, they were obligated to pay Vitil al Yaakov, but it was put only upon Yaakov, upon Israel, upon Jacob. Whether it's only the descendants of Yaakov went into Egypt, although the decree was upon all the descendants of Avraham, which would include Esav, which would include Edom. Right? This is what they're saying. Right? Give them this message. right? B'yidu avosenu Mitzrayim, and our fathers went down to Egypt, Mitzrayim, and we dwelt, settled in Egypt. Yamim Rabbi, many days. V'yareu lanu Mitzrayim, and they did evil to us, the Egyptians, v'lavosenu, to our forefathers, our fathers. Rashi v'yareu lanu sivlois tzaros rabbis. We went through many troubles. V'lavosenu, to our fathers, mikan sha'avos mitzdarim b'kever sheparonis ba'al Yisrael. Now, interesting. Now, there's a mystery. The verse says that they did evil to us, the Egyptians, and to our fathers. Yeah, and to end. So why and? So, I mean, it should have been to our forefathers, not and to our forefathers, meaning that the pain that they did is otherwise the forefathers, they were already passed away. And since they did to us and to them, how did they do to them? Because even in the grave, they had they felt the pain and the suffering. All right, interesting. V'nitzak el Hashem, and we cried out to God. V'yishma kolin, and He heard our voice. V'yishlach malach, and He sent a malach, an emissary. V'yetzienu Mitzrayim, and He took us out of Egypt. That's interesting. In the Pesach Haggadah, we say, Lo yal yedei malach, lo yal yedei saraf ela kodesh baruch ba'atmei. We don't say not through an angel, not through a saraf angel, but Hashem Himself took us out. Now He's saying an emissary, an angel took us out. And He took us out of Egypt. And now we're in Kadesh, a city, and Ir is a city at the edge of your border. Okay. Why at the edge? Because they want to go into Israel, right?
But an angel, not God?
Right.
By his hand.
That's what I just said. Exactly.
Weird.
Vishman 16 in Rashi, Vishma, and then he heard a voice, the Berocha, through the blessing, Shebirachnu Avinu, which our forefathers blessed us. Hakol Kol Yaakov, that the voice of Yaakov, the voice is the voice of Yaakov. She'onu Tzayakim, that we are crying out, Benanim, and we're answered. In other words, God heard our voice because we've been blessed with something. That when we cry out in prayer to God, He answers us.
Next, yeah.
Malach. So it says an emissary. We had translated. So Rashi is bothered by that. Zeh Moshe. This is Moshe. Mikan. From here we see Shanevim Kruyim Malachim, that the prophets are called angels. Va'aymer. And in the same vein, it says, Biyu malivim b'malache halakim. They insulted the angels of God, disgraced His word, and mocked His prophets. Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Now the request. What's the request that the Israelites are making of the Moshe is sending messengers to make of the Edomites? Nabrana, let us pass through Ba'artzacha, of your land. Lo navar b'sodeh. We won't go through the field, or bekerem, or in the vineyards. V'lo nishtem mei be'er, and we won't even drink from the waters of our wellspring. Right? Well, no, well, what? I don't know if it means theirs or it means the one of theirs that went through. I'm not certain what that means. We'll see Rashi. Derech hamelech nilach. We'll go by the king's road. Netei yamin. We will not veer to the right. Usmol to the left. Ada shenavor gvulecha. Until we pass through your territory. Right? In other words, we're not gonna take advantage of going through your land, right? Because going through their land is how the Israelites are going to get to the land of Israel. Let us see over here. I think I have a map of it. Here's Edom, right over here. You see? So across over here, this is Kadesh, where they are right now. Right? And go through into the land of Israel, to the southern part of Israel.
Moses would have entered Israel.
Moses would have entered Israel. Huh?
Did not be their purpose.
Yes, that's a good question. It sounds like Moshe is doing this on his own accord because we don't see that God tells him to do this. Interesting. Right? And like we just learned yesterday, like you just mentioned, David, that the right to go into Israel, he lost yesterday. So now why is he saying that we should go now through Edom, right, which is on the eastern side of Israel, to pass through in order to go into Israel? How do we understand that? Okay, let's see Rashi. Maybe we'll get some understanding here. Nabra nob artzecha. Let us pass through your land. Ein lacha. You have no cause to object. All the Yerusha shall Eretz Yisrael over the inheritance of the land of Israel. Keshem shaloi harata achoy. Just like you didn't pay the debt. In other words, you didn't go into slavery like we did. I say so at least help us a little bit, lavo, in order to pass through derech artzecha, through your land. Rashi, second. We will not drink from well water. May it should have said waters of cisterns. In other words, plural. It says may be'er means water of one well. But this is what Moshe said. Even though we possess man lecho, manna to eat, right, comes from heaven. Or bear lishtais, and we have a well that goes with us for drinking, which means it came back now after Miriam passed away. We won't drink from the well water that we have that goes with us, miraculously gives us water. Ella, rather, we'll buy from you food and drink. Right, and water, in order that you benefit, right? In other words, you're going to have a benefit with us going through your land. Mikan, from here we see lachsanya, that someone who's lodging, even though he has food of his own to eat, he should buy the food from the local storekeeper in order to benefit his host.
Pretty good pitch, huh?
Yeah. As you're being hosted locally, so buy something from them so that way they get some benefit rather than eat your own food. Interesting. By the way, it's interesting because it's another mikan from here.
That's a lot of food.
But yeah, there's a lot of food, exactly. Why is that interesting? It's because we had that by Avram Avinu when he was traveling. Also, that from there we learn. From here we learn that you should. Actually, there was about going back to the same Motel 6, when you go back. Yeah, on your journey. Actually, here's a bit there. So here's a bit different. Here's a bit. Huh?
Did he pay me like that?
Yeah. All right, 18. Love Edom. So Edom responded to him. He said to him, Savar. You will not pass, you will not go through our land. B, through me, right? In my country, unless we come out to greet you by the sword. Oh, okay, that fits, that they should come out with the sword. That's who they are. Right? How do we know the men of the sword? Hmm? And we learned that already, because Esau, right? The voice is the voice of Jacob, and the hands are the hands of Esau. Esau is the father of Edom. Yeah, Western civilization.
Was there a lot of people from Adam?
Yeah, all of Western civilization comes from Edom.
Oh, wow. So
Atem Misgoyim, you pride yourself, you pride yourself in the voice that you was bequeathed to you by your forefathers. And you would say, that we would cry out to God and he hears our voice, right? As we just said in verse 16, 2 verses ago. But I'm going to come out against you. In that which we bequeath from our forefather. And what is it? By the sword you shall live. Look in, right? If you look in Genesis, that's what it says about Esav. Verse 19. So the Israelites said back to him, Bnei Israel, we will go. Nala b'Mesila will go on. It translates here highway. Interesting translation. Yeah. B'Mesila Nala will go on the highway. If we drink your waters, we and our cattle, and the will pay the price. The only thing that there's nothing. There's only one thing. Don't fear that we're going to pass through just on foot, right? Yeah. There's nothing that's going to harm you, right?
Which word is fear?
No word. No word. That's why Rashi says, Ein shum davar mazikha. Rak ein davar. There's no thing, right? If you want to tie into Chassidus, when you have a thing, when you're a yesh, there's what to fear. If there's no thing but God, there's nothing what to fear, right? Besides God, of course. And he responded, you will not pass through rather. And not only that, but Adam went out to greet them with a heavy nation, meaning a heavy force, a vast force, it translates over here. With a strong hand. Rashi, with the promise of your ancestor, which is Esav, right? That the hands are the hands of Esav, right? Battle hands. And they refused Edom to give to Israel to pass through by foot. So the Israelites, they turned away from them. Wow.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Why do you refuse them?
We just read. We just learned. Because they live by the sword. Because as their forebearer Esav was, the hands are the hands of Esav, battle hands. So
no negotiating.
Yeah, okay, let's take a look.
There's no loss. They would suffer no loss.
Okay, give me a moment. We're going to learn some of the Rebbe's.
Yeah, I know he said he something no loss.
Suffer no loss.
That's right.
Hatred is the idea that even if you suffer no loss, hatred, that even if they suffer no loss and it's going to cost them nothing, they still don't want to do good to one another.
So it's no negotiation.
It's not a question of negotiation.
No, I mean, it's nothing to negotiate because they'll always be hateful, no matter what we
We're
do.
only here for ourselves, not for you, no matter if it costs us nothing.
And
Even if we're going to gain, even if perhaps we're going to gain because you'll drink the water and you'll pay us double.
so we've also gave them a lot, like the Sinai, this and that, and it's still, it's still,
We see that.
still in the head.
We see that hatred today.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
Nothing's changed.
So like I mean, there's no negotiations. Even like with the mosques and everything, no matter what.
Okay,
There's no negotiation.
let's see what we got here from the Rebbe's teachings, okay? Oops. Okay.
Bring the
Okay, so we had let's go to verse Rashi said, if you recall, so verse 16, right? Malach, which means an angel, emissary. So Rashi says, Moshe, this refers to Moshe. From here, we see that the prophets are called angels, right?
yes, sir.
Later on, in chapter 21, we're in chapter 20 right now. Later on in this parsha, in chapter 21, might be tomorrow, it also speaks about a similar messenger to Sichon, the king of the Amorites. And it says of Yishlach Yisrael Malachim, and the Jewish people sent messengers, again, Malachim, right, messenger, El Sichon Melech HaMairi, to Sichon, the king of the Amorites, right? Also to ask that we should go through their land, right? We should go through their land in order that we can go into the land of Israel, right? And the same thing, we won't drink, we will, we'll take from you and so on. So there are several things that stand out, a distinction between what we learn here and what we will learn then. The messengers for Edom was specifically Moshe. That Moshe sent Malachim, right? Moshe sent, here it says, in our verse, right?
What's the word for a messenger?
Huh?
Malach.
Right?
Same word as angels.
Right. But when it comes to Sichon coming up, it says that Israel sent. Bishach Israel. That's right. So here Moshe is sending, there Israel sending. The Jewish people. Meaning Israel means the Jewish people.
Send. He instructed from somewhere.
Whatever. I mean, he's just bringing out the, yeah. I mean, that itself is a good question. That itself is a good question, right?
So it's unspecified.
Exactly. But it's on Moshe. Here it's Moshe, there it's Israel. Right. Now, when it comes to Edom over here, the conversation begins with that we went out of Egypt. But that is not brought out to Sichai. Another distinction, right? To in the message to the king of Edom here, we say the word Na'ah, which means please, which is not said by Sichai. We don't say please. Please, please.
Oh, please.
Na'ah means please, right? Here, in our instance over here, they tried 2 times, right? You remember you brought out, it seems to repeat. By Sichain, they only asked 1 time.
Did he say please the second time?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No. Anyways, that's not the point. That's not the point. The point is that by Sichain, they only asked 1 time. So we're seeing distinctions, right? So the Rebbe explains like this. There's a distinction here in the foundation of the purpose of these 2 shlichusim, these 2 missions. Edom, we have a prohibition to battle against them. As we will see in the book of Dvarim and Deuteronomy, Lo tizgaru bam, don't start up with them, because I'm not giving you their land. I'm not giving you their land, so don't start up with them, right? Now, the permission, or the possibility rather, right now. In other words, so since we can't start off with them, all we can do is plead with them. That's all we can do. All we can do is plead with them, right? And therefore, we use all types of ways to plead with them, right? Sichain, on the other hand, the Amorites, we are able to battle them, right? And they were certain that, right, that would happen, which in the end is what did happen, that we defeated them in battle. Not now. Right? So the purpose of sending then messengers to Sichain is in order to try to open up to do it in a peaceful manner. Right? And if they don't do it in a peaceful manner, so then, okay, then we won't, in the end, it won't be in a peaceful way, the way they will be defeated.
Yeah.
Right. So from here, therefore, we see the 2 different types of missions. When it comes to Edom, it says
beseeching, the other one's a warning.
Right.
One is beseeching.
Yeah, one is beseeching, and one is, well, trying in peace, not a warning, but starting in peace. But if peace doesn't work, so then then it'll have to be in battle, right? Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to the mission to the king of Edom, so we mentioned Moshe. Why? to put a fear upon the king of Edom, that would put a pressure on him to allow the Jewish people to pass by. Right? Moshe, holy man, right? Leader, and so on. When it comes to the mission with Sichon, on the other hand, there wasn't a need to put a fear upon them, right? To put any kind of pressure on them, or any special one. And therefore the shlichus, the mission, is coming from all the Jewish people. It's coming from all the Jewish people. It's not coming, that's one point. When it comes to the mission to the king of Edom, the Jewish people are putting whatever kind of any way that they could, affect it. So therefore the word, it says, please, we speak about what happened in Egypt in order to get their, to get their empathy, right? But that wasn't necessary when it came to Sichon. So after, and furthermore, after they got a negative answer from the king of Edom, right, from what the mission was done from Moshe, then it says Bnei Yisrael. Then the next verse it says, right, first it says Moshe doing the mission.
I don't understand. He sent messengers. He didn't go himself.
Now, verse 19, it says, Vayomer Ela Bnei Yisrael. First it was Moshe, right?
It doesn't say Moshe, it says messengers.
Huh?
Moses sent messengers. He didn't go himself.
That doesn't mean that he went. That's not the point that he went. No, he didn't go. The question is who sent the messengers, right?
Yeah.
Moshe sent the messengers. In verse 19, go to verse 19.
Understand now the people.
It says, Vayomer Ela Bnei Yisrael. Now they said, the Israelites said, it wasn't Moshe. In other words, the mission was sent by the entire nation. Right? Huh?
Yeah. Hi, how are you?
How are you?
Baruch Hashem, good to see you.
So if it didn't work first by Moshe, then they tried a second way. Remember, they can't battle, so they're trying every way they can. So now they'll try from the entire Jewish people. Right? But when it came to Sichon, that wasn't necessary. Psh, amazing.
Like you said, it was a warning.
Huh?
Like Pesach said, it's a warning, more or less.
I don't know if warning, I wouldn't say the word warning because it wasn't a warning. They didn't do it as a warning. They did it to try to do it in peace. Right? So they did their part.
It's clear that
They didn't use a language. If you won't listen to us, we're warning you. No, we just can't. Let us pass.
But the understanding is,
Again, you're putting something, you're adding something that's not, perhaps, I don't know if we can say that, but the Rebbe didn't say here that it was a warning. He just said that since they have a permission to battle them, so therefore they just did everything one time, no pleas, no, right? And if not, so then they're going to do what they have to do.
Was from the people, and I think a lot of hundreds of thousands of people.
No, the mission was sent from the people. Doesn't mean hundreds of thousands of people went.
They represented the mission. So in other words,
Yeah.
you're going against the people, not just Moses.
right,
Yeah.
12
Anyway.
people came to ask. 10 people
Amazing.
came to ask.
Okay.